Hello, I'm Melissa Faith Payne, and welcome to a brand new show here in the city of Jackson that we are calling Ask Antar. And we are calling it that for a very special reason, because joining me is, of course, the mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Mayor, thank you so much for being here. This is something brand new that we've not done in a while. Let's talk a little bit about the concept of the show and why you even agreed to do it.
Well, I have to give credit to the communications team and just identifying the need to keep people informed. And in that, we have to communicate on different levels. We know that we have press conferences each week, and those are limited in terms of the time frame that we have to talk about issues. But also, we thought maybe a more relaxed, calm setting gives opportunity for people to better understand what's happening in our city. And for us to just be able to flesh it out. Sometimes the formality of things gives a different appearance of the things that are taking place. And so we want to meet people where they are, have conversations that are important to them with a casual, laid-back approach.
One thing that's really cool about this show is that when we're saying Ask Antar, the residents will actually have an opportunity to ask you questions. And so this is our first show, so no one's had a chance to ask. But one of the burning questions that people have, it always concerns trash in the city of Jackson. So in a layman's terms, kind of paint a picture of where we are now and what people can look forward to, I guess, in the next few weeks.
Well, just to first start where things are now and then kind of backtrack from that point so that people know how we got to this point. Right now, the companies that submitted for the RFP have turned in their bids. That will go to a review committee. That is the stage it is at now. Once they review those proposals, based on the scores that are later applied to those companies, they will make a recommendation to me. I will likely accept their recommendation, as I have done each and every time, and I will present it to the council. At that point, the council will have an opportunity to ask questions and either approve or reject that contract. And prayerfully, we can approve it. Now, what got us to this point? There was reluctance on our behalf to issue a new RFP for a number of reasons. One, because we had done so on multiple occasions already, and there's nothing that gave us indication that it would be a different result with a new RFP. But lastly, or additionally, I should say, is that we were reluctant to do it because we were able to obtain a rate for our residents that we knew based on the increase in gas prices, what is called CPI, which is the Consumer Index, Consumer Product Index, that it would likely lead to an increase in the proposals that we received. We know this because it's happening all over the country. And so we wanted to avoid a higher price for our residents. And lastly, we knew that there's a lawsuit per the last RFP that went out that is hanging over our residents' head. And so we had to come up with a solution that, not only provided the residents the lowest possible rate, but didn't leave them having to deal with two contracts at the same time. So in essence, people could see, a 70% hike in their garbage rates and make it unaffordable for people. And that's important not only because we don't want people to have to pay a premium for such a basic service, but that is coupled with the fact that we know our water rates are going up. I think that we have to be honest with people. I've been telling them for some time, when you look at the condition of not only our drinking water system, but more importantly, our wastewater system, that they were likely going to see an increase in those rates. And as soon as the opportunity presented itself, we now see the third-party manager, Mr. Ted Hennepin with Jackson Water, indicating that he's looking to create a rate increase so that he can maintain these systems. All of that is placed on the same bill that our residents have to pay each month. Mm-hmm. And so, for those that, live in more affluent areas and those that have the benefit that cost really isn't a factor, it doesn't affect them much. But the reality is that we live with residents that it does make a difference. We live with people who are retirees and have set budgets. We live with people who, just don't have the economic security that others may have. And so we have to make sure that our decisions are balanced so that all residents can enjoy the quality of life that they deserve and all residents can afford the services that they deserve.
When we're talking about this RFP process, can residents look forward to trash cans? Because we're always talking about carts, but are they getting trash cans with this new contract or the possibility?
They are getting trash cans with this new RFP. Now, I want to be clear. The reason that we chose the vendor that was selected in the last RFP is that they were the lowest by $13 million, with the trash can compared to $13 million more without a trash can. And so we simply selected the least costly. Now, unlike what has happened in some surrounding jurisdictions, our RFP does not require that our residents only use that trash can. So, if you feel that you can't get everything that you need within one bin, you can certainly use another bin. You can use your own trash can. But the reason that the RFP calls for trash bins is twofold. One, for those residents who don't have a can, it allows for them to no longer put out bags that rodents can get in, that dogs and different animals can get in and carry trash across the city. It is more aesthetically pleasing. It looks better when you have that. And then secondly, it is to help protect the workforce. Because when you have a uniform bin that allows the garbage truck to have technology on the back of the truck that those hoppers, the people who pick up the trash, can push the can behind the garbage truck. It'll pick it up and empty it. And while they may have other cans that residents may choose to use, it will reduce the workload on them, saving their bodies. And when we first entered this process, it was the hoppers that came to me and talked about how difficult it was on them because they were picking up pandemic-sized loads of trash at that time, meaning because people were working remotely, because people were staying home far more, that they were making more trash and it was more trash to be collected. And they were often one person on the back of the truck. We also have secured that there are two people on the back of the truck. That's important not only so that people aren't wearing themselves out, but also that we maintain a strong workforce so that we're not displacing and unemploying people in this process.
So when people, if they're following this trash scenario in the city, a lot of times there's a lot of back and forth. What do you want to say to residents when they're watching the back and forth between you and the council, just about your position as far as just getting a contract on the table and passed?
Yeah. Well, first, I want them to know that they deserve leadership that does not fight, does not dispute, but works through challenges. I want them to know that the primary concern today has been the primary concern for us from day one, and that's to secure the lowest possible rate for our residents. We're agnostic towards company, meaning we don't care what company gets it, so long as they prove that they can actually do the work and that they are the most affordable company for our residents in Jackson. I want them to know that we've chosen 3 different options on the path to getting a long-term agreement in place. The first time, we selected waste management and we rejected all bids. We did that because we had the fortune of having an option left in that prior contract that allowed us to do one last year. And because it was the lowest option, the most cost-effective thing and the lowest thing that our residents would have to pay, we chose them. But we couldn't do that the next year because that option was no longer on the table. The second time, we chose a company, FCC, right? And we chose FCC because they were the lowest negotiated price. They were offering to pay an average salary of $63,000 per worker. They were offering not only to do curbside pickup for our residents with a can, right? But they were going to do 5-day-a-week litter pickup and illegal dumping. I hear residents complaining about illegal dumping and litter each and every day. So that, in essence, was giving us the opportunity to have 2 contracts for the price of 1. And so that's why it was selected. It's defensible why the selection committee would have picked that and put it forward. Unfortunately, we were unable to reach an agreement and get it past the council. And so lastly, in the last RFP, we decided to do protections in the process, Melissa. We said, look, so nobody says that they were uninformed about how things would be graded. We had 3, community meetings We had council meetings where we gave the scale of how each company would be rated. We also created what we call a blind scoring process. What that meant is, for those that don't know what blind scoring is that the companies that were submitting their proposal, they couldn't put their company name on it. They couldn't put any identifying marks within their document so that, as the decision makers, we could judge, the proposals on the proposal alone and no other bias. And lastly, there was a cone of silence where we could not talk to any of the vendors in the process that we were going through. And out of that is when Richard's Disposal was selected. And they were selected because they were $13 million cheaper. In fact, I didn't even select them initially. I gave those raw scores to the council, and I told them to let me know which one they wanted based on those raw scores. And they eliminated the once-a-week options because I would agree with them. What we heard through our residents is that they didn't want once a week. They wanted twice a week. And between the final two twice-a-week options, I selected the lowest, $13 million lowest between the two.
I'm going to pause you there, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a few moments. Welcome back to Ask Antar. And Mayor, before we move on, I want to finish up the trash conversation. So as we're moving forward to the possibility of you putting this contract before council, let's just say worst case scenario, they reject it. What does that look like? Because no one wants to go with days of no trash pickup.
Well, let me say this first, Melissa. I want all of our residents to understand that under no circumstance did we want them to experience what they experienced last year with the pause in trash collections, and that they didn't deserve for that to happen. That was not the objective of the administration. We never wanted to, nor do we receive it as a personal thing for us. We just have to protect our residents in the long run and make sure that we aren't pricing people out of their ability to live in the city of Jackson. So I will assure them that I will leave no stone unturned in order to come to some compromise or some solution. Because the concern over the expiring contract, the fact that the court in the current litigation, has, their schedule for addressing that is a little further than the expiration of the contract. I've already began having conversations of what a negotiation looks like with the council. I've reintroduced those conversations with them. And like any negotiation, nobody walks away feeling, that they won 100%. There'll be some things that you can live with, and there are some things that maybe would not have been your choice. And so we have to come to the table understanding that everybody has to sacrifice a little bit in this process. But we have to make sure that ultimately the greatest sacrifice is in our residents.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. So you're a mayor. You've been mayor for a while now. What would you say would be the biggest misconception that people have about what it means to be mayor? Because it looks like it's just, it's so simple. It's easy.
Well, thank you for reminding me I'm not as young as I used to be. I had a little less gray when I started. But there are two things. I believe that sometimes people believe that the mayor has a little more control than he actually does. And it leads them to be disappointed when certain things don't happen. I get calls about when the gas goes out, right? I get calls about several things that I don't have control over. And the things that I do, sometimes people improperly assume that it's a lack of political will, meaning that we just don't desire or we're just not motivated to get things done. And the reality is that some things that don't happen in the time and fashion that we want them to happen are due to a lack of resources. You just don't have the money. And so a good part of the work of this administration has been, how do we identify dedicated streams of funding to address water? How do we identify a dedicated stream of funding to address sewer and roads? And I think that we've been really successful in doing that. And that's due to the hard work of a lot of people that are behind the scenes that our residents may never know. It's due to lobbyists who lobby for us in Washington, D.C. It's due to teams that we work with, like the Thomas Group, at the assistance of the Bloomberg Foundation that says, listen, we're going to give you the technical expertise in order to apply for these funds, in order to make your pitch for the money that you need. And so I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful for their hard work and commitment. And ultimately, the benefactor are the residents of Jackson.
You said something in a news conference, I think it was like last week, because despite what people may think, you have brought in a lot of money into the city. I think you called it the $1 billion administration, and that's pretty accurate when we're talking about the money that's come into the city that people may not even know about.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I say the $1 billion administration just to kind of sum up that hard work in a quick and fast slogan, right? But like I said, humbly, there's been a lot of work that has taken place to make that happen. Residents remember that, we suffered a poor contract in the Siemens lawsuit. We were able to recover $90 million from that lawsuit. We were fortunate that we made a pitch to the Biden administration, and not for the first time in Jackson's history, not for the first time in the state of Mississippi's history, but for the first time in United States history, a city was given $600 million in a direct appropriation in the omnibus bill. That's the bill that Congress passes at the end of the year. What are their priorities? What do they want to focus on? And they gave $600 million to the city of Jackson in that bill, and an additional $200 million to the city of Jackson in direct appropriation for our water system. The money that we've gotten through COVID and other applications that we've made. And so our ability to recoup money far exceeds $1 billion. And I believe, until someone can prove me wrong, that we're the first administration within the scope of time that we've been working to recover $1 billion for the residents of Jackson. Now, I have to balance that, right? I have to balance that so residents don't think because we got $1 billion that everything becomes shiny and new overnight. What it means is that we no longer are just producing plans with no money to actually implement those plans. We now have the funds that over the span of time that we can get to doing the work.
So, because when people hear $1 billion, they're thinking, oh, everything's going to be fixed immediately. Talk a little bit about how you're able to move and maneuver that money and what that means to the everyday person who doesn't necessarily feel like they're going to see it.
Well, when we take the water system, for example, now having the $800 million means that we have the money to do it, but we have 50% loss in our distribution system. Right. So that means that we literally have to dig up pipes. Pipes have to be dug up, repairs had to be made. You can't dig up all of the pipes in 1 year. You don't have enough contractors. Pipes are under the ground, so you can't, dig up all of your streets. People wouldn't be able to travel across the city. So you have to strategically do that. So it's not just a matter of the timing in which you do contracts. It's the ability to do it in a way that does not completely collapse the way that we move and function in the city every day. We have the 1% sales tax that the residents of Jackson demonstrated their willingness to compromise, their willingness to sacrifice more. That money largely goes to street repairs that we've seen in the city. We've been focusing on major thoroughfares over the last few years. We're now turning our focus to neighborhood streets so that we can get to the streets that you travel on each and every day with a focus on what residents share with us are their priorities. And lastly, we've now taken our internet sales tax, the money that we get from when Jackson residents buy things online. We now get about $10 million annually in that. We're leveraging that, meaning that we're taking it to the bond market so that we can get more money up front and commit maybe $3 to $4 million out of that each year, that we can get $40 million up front. And we're going to start dealing with the drainage issues that residents have been dealing with for decades now.
Wow. And let me just go back to the $800 million or the $600 million. That money is what the third party water administrator is using, but he wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that he's been able to do unless you had gotten that money.
This administration, and when I say this administration, I'm not talking about Chokwe, Antar, Lumumba. I'm talking about our lobbyists. I'm talking about our city attorney. I'm talking about, our cabinet and so many other people that work alongside us. we were able to secure that money, and now he has been given that money in order to do the work. So we're no longer in control of the repairs that take place, but we did secure the money for it to happen. And so I think that it's our responsibility that we all collectively hold him accountable for the work that has to be done, while simultaneously being his biggest cheerleader, right? Because if he's successful, then we're successful. And so that's what we want. We want his success because we want our success as a people.
Sounds good. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back in just a few moments. All right, and welcome back. So, Mayor, we've been talking business, but one purpose of this show is so people can see you more relaxed and see the Antar side of you. Yeah, there you go, chill, relax. So, one thing people know about you, because you talk about it all the time, is how much you are, sadly, a Detroit Lions fan and not a Cowboys fan, because that's America's team. But share with everybody why you chose to follow the Lions.
Well, first, let me say that one of the least impressive things about you, Melissa, is that you are a Cowboys fan. But, getting past that. So, I moved to Jackson when I was 5, a little boy. So I am a Jackson resident through and through. This is my home. This is what I know. But I was born in Detroit. And what people may not know is that I don't have, outside of my little girls and my sister, any blood relatives in Jackson. But I come from a very large family. So my dad was one of 8. My grandmother was one of 15. One of the things we're most proud of is her first cousin was Joe Louis, the boxer, right? And so our roots run really deep in the city of Detroit. And so I was indoctrinated as a young boy. My father made certain that I was a Pistons, Lions, and Tigers fan. And so I still follow those teams. But, I love them because when they're doing well, which has been rare, I will admit, is that, it gives my family joy. It's a distraction. And then also, there's something about, the team that people have never given a chance, right? I think there's a parallel to how people see Jackson often. People see our city, in many negative regards. But I believe that there's opportunity there. I think that there's something that can be built here. And so just like my team has risen from the ashes, right? I think that the city will too. Now, I will say to you that we have a lot in common. Typically what I tell Cowboys fans is that the only difference between a Lions fan and a Cowboys fan is typically in the beginning of the year, we know we're not going to win, right? but you think you are, and we've been, suffering for about the same amount of time. It's been about 30 years,
Next
right?
year is our year.
Well, I'm sure you think that, right? I am positive you think that, right now.
Okay, so when you were watching the playoff game, because I know you were in your man cave, you are watching this game, you're 17 points up.
Yeah.
How were you spiritually in that moment?
Well, as would be expected, I was truly excited. The first half Chokwe and the second half Chokwe looked nothing alike, right? Because that game turned on its head. But I made a decision. A lot of people, because I'm the only Lions fan that they know, reached out. Oh, I know you must be stressed. I know you must be bothered. But I told myself before this game that I had put an expectation out there for my team. And I actually, you can ask some of the people, Marcus Williams, who's always with me every day, I told them how many games my team would win. And I told them, do not be surprised if the Lions make it to the NFC Championship. And they did that. Did I want the Super Bowl? Yes. But I think we're ahead of schedule. We have a lot of cap space. We got 4 draft picks within the first 3 rounds. And we're a destination. Now everybody wants to come. So you should become a Lions fan because it's likely your favorite Cowboy will be playing for us anyway, right?
So Super Bowl, who are you going for now at this point?
That's a rough one. Well, I think I have to join the Mahomes team. I have to root for Patrick Mahomes at this point. Not that I'm bitter that San Francisco beat us, even though I've seen some pretty hurtful memes.
I'm bitter that San Francisco beat y'all.
There's a meme, you know how in The Lion King they held up Simba? They have a lion with a person with a 49ers jersey. Instead of holding up Simba, they're throwing Simba in the crowd. I think that that's disrespectful to the Lion King, and it's disrespectful to the Detroit Lions. So,
this segment here would typically be when residents have a chance to email in their questions, and they'll be asking you questions. So, since we don't have questions yet, you'll just get my questions.
I got you.
But let's share a little known fact that people may not know about you. I'm gonna give you like 2 seconds to think of something really cool to share with residents.
Okay.
Better yet, let's talk about baking with your girls.
Well, I know first and foremost, so residents know, I make the best cookies. My daughters will attest to this. Melissa feels that because they are slice and bake, that I don't deserve credit,
cookies.
right? But it's about the perfect timing, and when you bring them out, so they have a slight crisp, but they're soft enough. And a lot of people haven't mastered that timing. I will not tell you what my timing is, but it works every single time. But I'll say, just something that people would not know about me is that one of my hobbies that I enjoy is interior design. So my wife is trusting enough; she's seen the results enough that in our home, I enjoy, renovating things and
Are you with the hammer or are you?
No, I'm not a construction worker, but it's a vision that I usually
Are you
apply.
painting?
I can paint.
Okay.
I can paint, but I choose not to paint.
Okay.
Right. But
You have the eye. So
I have the eye.
Okay.
I have the eye, and honestly, I got that from my mother. My mother liked, decorating. She liked, reinventing or recreating a space, and so it's something I picked up from her. It's relaxing to me, just to have a vision of something. I like seeing things that may not be in their best form, envisioning its improvement and seeing it come to its conclusion.
Yeah.
I think that's consistent across my life. I like taking a challenge and identifying how we can get to a better place.
Like the city of Jackson.
Like the city of Jackson. Like the city of Jackson.
Well, we're almost out of time, but if you had 20 seconds to look into a camera and tell residents this is their space to come in and talk to you, I would tell you to look into that camera and tell it to them.
Well, I think that it's important that we understand that as we build Jackson, everybody has to play a part. As mayor, I focus on how I can improve myself, improve the work that I do each and every day. But as residents, you have an important part in this. Your questions and your suggestions inform us. And so we're looking forward to your questions. There may be issues that we've considered and we have a response for. Often I'm confronted with a new question or a new thought that I never would have considered. But it's our collective genius, meaning that we're a lot smarter together than we are independent of one another. And this city will not progress, it will not grow because one person has all of the ideas or all of the solutions, but because we work together in order to find the best way forward.
That's good. It's like you're a politician. It's like you know how to do these things.
It's like I love people, right?
Well, we are all out of time. We want to thank you all for joining us. Again, if you have questions, we want to direct you to the City of Jackson's website. That is jacksonms.gov. And on that page, you will see the Ask Antar logo. Click that and you'll be able to ask your questions. Keep in mind, we're just going to randomly pick questions and we'll share them with you. And this show will be aired once a month. And we'll air it on Facebook. We'll have it on the city's website. And we'll air it on our PEG network and also on YouTube. Make sure that you guys click the link. Make sure that you guys share with us. Mayor, thank you so much for being so candid and sharing with us. Send your suggestions in. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we are all out of time. Have a great night, everyone.